At some point, you stopped being yourself. And the weird part is you didn't really notice. Not in a dramatic way. Not like some big moment where everything changed. It happened slowly, quietly, like water wearing down stone. And now you're here, living your life, doing your things. And somewhere underneath all of it, there's this faint, uneasy feeling that you can't quite name. Like you're performing a version of yourself, but you're not entirely sure who wrote the script. And the strange thing is, most people never actually sit with that feeling long enough to understand it. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. Just this question of identity. Who we actually are versus who we think we are versus who we've been shaped into being. Because here's something that doesn't get talked about enough. We live in a time where, for the first time in history, a massive portion of the things that influence who you are, your opinions, your humor, your sense of what's desirable, what's embarrassing, what's cool, what matters, all of that is being piped directly into your brain by an algorithm, by a feed, by a stream of content that was specifically optimized to keep you watching. And you didn't choose most of it, it just found you. Think about someone you knew maybe 5 or 6 years ago. Could be a friend, could be yourself. Think about what their opinions were like, their vibe, what kind of jokes they made, what they cared about. Now think about them today. There's a good chance something shifted. Maybe their politics changed. Maybe their whole personality feels different. Maybe they're angrier now, or more ironic, or obsessed with things they never even mentioned before. And maybe you've written that off as them growing or changing. But sometimes it's not really growth. It's absorption. They absorbed a community, an online identity, a whole set of pre-packaged beliefs and aesthetics and ways of talking that came bundled together. And they don't even know it happened. The thing about identity is that we assume it comes from inside us. Like deep down, there's some true self, some core, and our job is just to express it, find it, live it out. That's basically the whole premise of every coming of age story ever told. But that's not really how it works. Not entirely. Identity is assembled. It's built from everything around you. The people who raised you, the culture you grew up in, the experiences you had, the things you read, watched, listened to. Identity is relational. It's porous. It absorbs, which on its own is totally fine. That's just being human. But here's the thing, that process used to be slow. It was gradual. You'd encounter an idea, sit with it, argue with people about it, maybe slowly integrate it. You had time to process. Now, bro, you encounter 10,000 ideas before breakfast. Your brain doesn't have time to process any of them. You're just absorbing and absorbing and absorbing. And when you absorb that much, that fast, without much reflection, it becomes really hard to know which parts of you are actually you. Like, do you actually like the music you listen to? Or did the algorithm decide that for you and you just went along with it? Do you actually hold the political opinions you hold because you've thought them through? Or because the specific online communities you drifted into happened to hold those opinions and you got pulled in by the social gravity of belonging somewhere? I'm not saying your preferences aren't real. I'm not saying your beliefs are fake. I'm just saying, when's the last time you actually questioned any of it? When's the last time you sat alone, no input, no podcast, no scroll, and just tried to figure out what you actually think about something? Most people don't really do that anymore. And that's kind of scary when you think about it. Because if your opinions are always formed in reaction to content, if your sense of humor is a mirror of whatever influencers you watch, if your aesthetic, your values, your worldview are all constantly being updated by external feeds, then what's left that's actually yours? It's like building a house on ground that keeps shifting. At some point, you don't even know what the foundation is. There's this phenomenon I keep thinking about. It doesn't have a name, I don't think, where people lose their hobbies. Not like they get busy, not like life got in the way. They just stopped knowing what they actually enjoyed. Because for a long time, their enjoyment was mediated. They watched videos about a hobby instead of doing it. They followed people who had a passion instead of developing their own. They experienced things vicariously through content. And slowly, the direct experience of just liking something quietly for yourself with no audience, no validation loop, no engagement, that muscle atrophied. And now they're bored. But not really bored bored in the normal way. It's more like they can't generate their own internal experience anymore without an input source. That's different. That's actually kind of alarming. Okay, I feel like I'm maybe being too heavy about this. Like, I'm not saying everyone's a hollow shell or whatever. That's not the point. The point is more like identity erosion. It's a slow process, and we're all in it to varying degrees. And the reason it matters is because you can only make real decisions about your life. Like what you actually want, who you actually want to be, what direction you actually want to move in. If you have some sense of who you are underneath all the noise. And right now, for a lot of people, the noise is really, really loud. Think about the last time you genuinely surprised yourself. Not in a social media moment way. Not, I tried this new thing and posted about it. I mean, genuinely did something that wasn't predicted by the version of yourself you've been presenting to the world. Those moments are interesting because they're glimpses. They're little cracks where the actual you, the more fluid, unperformed you, shows up for a second. Maybe it's a song you loved that you'd never expect to love. Maybe it's a random thought you had that didn't fit the opinions you're supposed to have. Maybe it's a conversation where you said something and then thought, wait, where did that come from? Those moments matter. They're worth following. There's something about playing Minecraft for a long time that gets at this. Not in a deep way. I'm not about to compare a video game to existential philosophy or whatever. But like, when you've been playing for hours, just building, just exploring, nobody watching, no commentary, no stream, you're just in this thing. And you start to notice what you're actually drawn to, what you build when nobody's telling you what to build, what you go toward when there's no objective. And it's usually pretty different from what you think your taste is when you're performing taste for other people. That gap between what you do when nobody's watching and what you present when someone is, that gap tells you a lot. A lot of people, I think, have quietly stopped being alone, like truly alone. Not just physically alone, but mentally unaccompanied. There's always a podcast, a video, a show, a scroll. The internal monologue gets crowded out, and the internal monologue is kind of important. It's where you actually process things. It's where you figure out what you think. Without it, you just sort of react to things. You're always responding to an input. You never really originate anything. And then when someone asks you who you are, like genuinely, deeply asks, there's this pause. And the answers that come out are kind of borrowed, assembled from aesthetics and identities you've encountered. And you know it, sort of. There's a faint awareness that you're describing a character rather than a person. I think the path out of it, if there is one, isn't dramatic. It's not some big reinvention. It's not a personality overhaul or a digital detox or moving to the mountains or whatever. It's smaller than that. It's just practicing being uninfluenced for small stretches of time. Sitting with an opinion long enough to actually check if you believe it. Doing things that have no audience, even if the audience is just yourself watching yourself on some internal screen. It's noticing the gap between the performed self and the actual self and being curious about it instead of anxious about it, because you're not gone. That's not what I'm saying. You're just buried under a lot of noise, and the noise is loud, but it's not permanent. And sometimes all it takes is getting quiet enough to hear yourself again. And I don't know. Maybe that's what's kind of nice about this. The Minecraft thing, the casual gameplay, the just doing something slow without an agenda. It sounds dumb, but there's something about it. The absence of urgency, the absence of performance. Just being somewhere, doing something, thinking. People don't do enough of that.